Yeah, Frasier became my sort of evil twin on something. That thing I was talking about being life and death. To Frasier, everything was life and death. So he was an elevated human being already. He just always lived in a kind of crisis at all times. It was usually a crisis of conscience or a crisis of love, romance. The thing I determined about him when I first read for the role of Frasier for Cheers was that he was so in love with Shelley, with Diane, that he loved fully. He loved big. He committed his whole being with his whole heart. And that's something I hadn't played before, so that's what appealed to me about him. But he was incapable of just loving. He had a fatal flaw, I guess you could call it, where nothing was good enough. And so, and mostly he wasn't good enough, which made him fascinating to play. I think a lot of people, feel this way about themselves in life. Maybe only Americans, I don't know. But Frasier what was interesting about keeping the audience's attention in terms of Frasier was the fact that they always knew somehow he was going to mess up. But what became the surprise in each show was how we got there. And that was the one thing. When I did, it's a great lesson, Christopher Plummer, Sound of Music, wonderful, extraordinary actor. I did Othello with him. He played Iago, I played Cassio, James Earl Jones played Othello. And when we were rehearsing, Christopher Plummer would always say, Peter Coe was the director, Peter, they're ahead of us. And I'd go, what's he on about? And he would always refer to the audience. And this is the first time, you go to school, you're told, it's not about the audience, it's about your performance, and I think that's a load of crap. Don't listen to these people. Christopher Plummer was right. He said, the audience, they're ahead of us. And if the audience is ahead of you, this is what I figured out, if the audience is ahead of you, you've lost them. They're bored. They're not engaged anymore because they've already figured out where you're going. And I think that's probably something that served me better than anything else in terms of understanding what my obligation was to the audience, because it isn't art unless there's somebody watching it. It's just you sit at home, throwing paint at the screen. So it's an organic response. It's an organic relationship that must be trusting and exciting and organic, and I said that already, didn't I? And vivacious in some way. It has to be energized with a sort of love. And I think that's the beauty of both comedy and drama, actually, is that there is this sense underneath that what we're talking about is something about love. William Faulkner spoke in his acceptance speech of the Nobel Prize. He tried to give advice to the young writer. He said, make sure that whatever you're writing about, it's about love. It's about something important. Because otherwise, you've trivialized your own art, trivialized your own story to tell, and you bored your audience, because this is our obligation, is to make it big. Even though Frasier was obsessed about whether or not, a girl liked him for his career on the radio or for the way he wore his shoes, he was an obsessive character. His search was always about that true, authentic, genuine contact that elevated his life. And I think that's why he remained funny. Okay, that's a good question. There's a writer, Sam Simon. He used to work on Tracy Ullman's show and started introducing the Simpsons clips within the context. It was the Itchy and Scratchy show, I think, originally, anyway. They started this show, The Simpsons, and he called me one afternoon and said, Kelsey used to sing around the set. And I did. I used to walk into work and sing, oh, the good life, and stuff like that. And because I was usually pretty happy. He asked me if I could sing a Cole Porter song, which actually I noticed they used a clip of here, the Every Time We Say Goodbye song. And so I had him send over the sheet music, and I said, I can sing that. It's a nice song. So he explained the role to me that I had never spoken yet, or Sideshow Bob had never spoken yet, that he was Krusty the Clown's sidekick. I said, yeah, what the hell, let's give it a try. So we went over, and as I read through the script, I realized that I had, in my experience, this is what I was talking about before, you know, human experience is what you draw on. I knew this guy. This guy exists. He's a famous actor named Ellis Rabb, who is no longer with us, but I had worked for him, hanging wallpaper and painting his apartment and running errands. I did some renovations in his office. I was, you know, this was before I was a paid actor. I was just a construction worker. And Ellis spoke like this all the time. I thought, I've got to steal this guy sometime. And there it was, Sideshow Bob. Sitting there on the page was Ellis Rabb. And that's how it all began, you know. Die, Bart, die.